Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Today we have here Cambridge IGCSE Chemistry Core Paper 1 2 October November 2022. Total time for which is 45 minutes. Total marks 40 and total questions 40 for 1 mark each. So question 1, which statement describes the particles in a liquid? So they are close together but have no regular arrangement. This seems to be correct. They are close together but not tightly packed, and they do not have a regular arrangement. They are randomly arranged. Let's look at the other options. They are densely packed in a regular order. This is for solids. They move freely at high speed and are widely spaced. This is for gas. They vibrate but do not move from a fixed position. Again, a solid. So option A is the closest. Next, the apparatus used in a chromatography experiment is shown. Which line shows the starting depth of the solvent in the beaker? Okay, so basically this means to ask us where is the solvent at with respect to the chromatography paper, the chromatogram. So the solvent should be reaching the chromatogram, but it should be below the baseline. This is the baseline. B is the baseline. A is the solvent front, where the solvent travels up to. D is below the paper. So we do not keep the solvent below the paper. Basically, this is asking us how much do we dip the paper into the solvent, into the water or whatever solvent it is. So it is C because it should be below the baseline and it should be on the paper. And A does not make sense. It is the solvent front, the distance which the solvent travels. Okay, so next, filtration is used to separate mixtures. Which type of mixture is separated by filtration? So filtration done through a filter paper on a filtrating filter funnel. The insoluble substance stays over here. Residue is collected as the residue, and the filtrate with the soluble substances and the solvent itself is collected as a filtrate. So which type of mixture is separated by filtration? An insoluble solid from a liquid. Correct. A liquid solvent from a solution? No, that is through fractional distillation. A dissolved solid from a solution, that is through maybe crystallization or evaporation until dryness. And a liquid from a mixture of liquids, then this is a separating funnel, a filter funnel. Yeah, separating funnel. Next, how many neutrons are present in an atom of 3517 Cl? So the number 35 is the mass number and the 17, this is the mass number and this is proton number. So mass number minus the proton number will give us the number of neutrons. So 35 minus 17, which will be 18. So the correct answer is B. Which statement about an alloy is correct? It is a compound? No, it is not a compound. It is a mixture. It is a layer of a metal plated onto another metal. No, that is not an alloy. It is just electroplating. It is a mixture. Yeah, it is a mixture of a metal, yes, with one or more other elements. Yes. So this is the textbook definition also written in your syllabus. So you should have a grip on this. It is a single element. No. Then why would it be an alloy? Next, which statement about compounds is correct? Covalent compounds are less volatile than ionic compounds. So volatility or volatile being volatile means that they can be turned into gases easily. Volatile means the tendency of a substance to vaporize, which means that how easily can a substance turn into a gas. So less volatile means that they can turn into gas less easily than ionic compounds. So which means that covalent compounds should have a higher boiling point and ionic compounds should have a lower boiling point than covalent compounds, which is not true. Covalent compounds are more volatile because they can turn into gases more easily. So covalent compounds conduct electricity when they're solid. No, covalent compounds never conduct electricity. Ionic compounds conduct electricity when molten. True. Ionic compounds are insoluble in water. No, they're insoluble in ethanol but soluble in water. Next, which statement explains why diamond is used in cutting tools? It has no free electrons. This is true, but it is not related to this. It has a high melting point. This is also true, but not linked up to cutting tools. It is colorless. Again, No link with cutting tools. It is hard. It is pretty obvious. Common sense. Caffeine is a stimulant found in coffee. Which formula represents caffeine? So this is a repeat question. I remember seeing this earlier too. So we just have to count the number of carbon atoms, the nitrogen and hydrogen and oxygen atoms. So how many C's are there? One, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So C8. So option A is correct, incorrect. And how many H? H we have 3, 6, 9, 10. So 10 H's. So D is incorrect. And how many N? 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4. So option C seems to be correct. And it is the correct answer. What is the relative formula mass of ammonium sulfate? So this is really basic. Just have to add the individual atomic masses given in the periodic table. So there are the mass of nitrogen is 14, hydrogen is 1, sulfur is 32, oxygen is 16. So we have two nitrogens because of this 2 over here. So two nitrogens, 14 times 2 plus 8 hydrogens. So 1 times 8 because 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. We have one sulfur and we have four oxygens. So this will give us 28 plus 8, basically plus 40 if we add these two, plus 48. So 88, 88 plus 28. So 118. Or maybe we should add again from the by using the calculator. Just a second. So 14 times 2 will be 28 plus 8 plus 32 plus 16 times 4. Oh, sorry, this is not 48, this will be 64. 16 times 4. So the correct answer is B. D. So it is better to use a calculator in the first attempt to save time. Next, question 10. The electrolysis of concentrated aqueous sodium chloride and molten sodium chloride is shown. What are the products at electrode 1 and 2? What are the products at electrodes 1 and 2? Okay, so electrode 1 is a cathode because the negative one is the cathode on which the cation deposits, and electrode 2 is an anode where the anion deposits. So in this solution we have two cations, Na plus and H plus. So because H plus is way down below Na plus, so it will be discharged with much more ease than Na plus. So H plus is always preferred. So no chlorine, no sodium, only hydrogen, hydrogen will be deposited on this electrode. And in the second solution, we only have two anions, or we have only one anions because this is molten, not aqueous, so there is no water. So Cl minus is the only anion we have, which will be deposited. So option B is correct. Yeah. So 11, when an acid is added to an alkali, the temperature of the mixture rises. So, which words describe this reaction? Decomposition and endothermic? No, the temperature of the reaction mixture rises, which means it releases energy, so it is exothermic. You can remember this by exit. So, energy is exited or released. So, this is an exothermic reaction. So, no option A and no option C. Next, we don't have any evidence to support this is a decomposition. So, incorrect neutralization. Acid plus base or alkali is always neutralization. So option D is correct. Question 12, some properties of four fuels are shown. Which fuel is a gas at room temperature and makes two products when it burns in a plentiful supply of air? So hydrogen is the first option. We know that it is a gas at room temperature, but it does not produce two products when it reacts with oxygen or when it is combusted. So incorrect. Methane is a gas and it burns in oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. This is true for all organic compounds. So this will be true for octane also. But the problem is that octane is not a gas. Octane is not a gas because if you look at the melting point, this is minus 57, which makes it which gives us the evidence that it is a liquid. It turns from a solid into a liquid at this point, and when we heat it further, so when we reach 126, then it turns into a gas. So between -57 and 126, it is still a liquid. So the room temperature is approximately 25 to 35, if we say. So between these temperatures, it is what? A liquid. At room temperature, it is a liquid. So incorrect. Wax is the same for wax. It is an organic compound, but the thing is, it is 60. The 60 is the melting point. So the room temperature is 25 to 35, if we suppose. Then at this state, what is it? It is a solid because when we reach 60, we reach the melting point, which is solid into liquid. So option B is correct. Which process is a physical change? Burning wood. This might seem at first glance a physical change, but burning wood means that it is reacting with oxygen. So this is a chemical change. Cooking an egg. Okay, so this is also a physical, so this is also a chemical process in which the chemical composition of the egg changes because it is heated. Next, melting an ice cube. So no reaction is taking place over here, just and by the way, we mix oil and other things in cooking an egg, so they chemically react. Melting an ice cube, just physical change because the state of matter is changing, solid to liquid. Rusting iron is a chemical change. It reacts with oxygen in the presence of hydrated iron reacts with oxygen. So to produce rust. So only option C is correct. Next, the volume of gas given off in a chemical reaction is measured over time. At which time is the rate of reaction the greatest? So for the rate of reaction, we have to see the gradient, the slope of the graph. So it is pretty evident that it is the steepest over here. At zero, it is zero, the rate of reaction, because the gradient of the graph is zero. At 4 seconds, it is increasing, but you can see for yourself the steepness over here compared to the steepness over here. So we have to have the greatest slope and the greatest steep, and at 10, it is nearing zero again because it is going towards constant. The gradient is going towards zero. So option C is correct. Next, which row describes the colors of the named salts? So this is what you have to remember. The test for water is done with two compounds, cobalt 2 chloride and anhydrous cobalt 2 chloride and anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. So when we add water to both of them, the color is changed. So for copper 2 sulfate, it goes from white to blue. So only option C can be correct. No, no, no. Hydrated copper to sulfate, it is written over here that it should be blue because anhydrous is white, and when we add water, it goes blue. So white to blue because all copper compounds hydrated are blue. So hydrated copper to sulfate should be blue, and anhydrous copper to sulfate should be white. So either option A or B. Next, hydrated cobalt 2 chloride. So the thing is, it should be blue when anhydrous and pink when hydrated. The change is blue to pink. You can remember it BP. So option B is correct. When magnesium is heated with zinc oxide, a reaction occurs. The equation is shown which substance is oxidized. So we can see magnesium has over here no oxygen, while here it has an oxygen atom attached. So it has been oxidized. Next, we can also see the oxidation state over here. It is zero. Oxygen always has -2, and to make the entirety it make it entirely zero, Mg should be +2 to make it zero. So the oxidation state increased from 0 to +2. So oxidation state increases means it is oxidized. X and Y are oxides of two different elements. Okay, X reacts with water to produce aqueous solution Z. Okay, this indicates that it is hydroxide, soluble hydroxide. Or we should read first. Ignore this. Z turns universal indicator paper blue. Okay, so when the universal indicator turns blue, it means that the substance is basic. So it is blue in bases. So which means that Z is a base. So what happened was the oxide of X reacted with water to produce a base, which means that this is a basic oxide. So we know that basic oxides are metal oxides. Metal oxides are basic. Next, an aqueous solution of Y reacts with sodium carbonate to produce carbon dioxide gas. So this is the reaction we should be remembering very well. The reaction is acid plus carbonate salt producing carbon dioxide plus water plus salt. So this means that this should be an acid, which is Y. So Y is acidic, which means that the oxide of Y is acidic. The aqueous solution of this was basically the aqueous solution of Y. This was the aqueous solution of Y. Aqueous solution of Y, and which means that Y reacted with water to become aqueous, so it formed a acidic aqueous solution. The solution of Y or the aqueous solution of Y is an acidic solution. So the oxides which form acidic solution are non-metal oxides. So this is non-metal. This is a non-metal. Okay, so X and Y are both the oxides of metals? No. X and Y are both the oxides of non-metals? No. We have this as the metal oxide, XO is metal oxide, and YO is non-metal oxide. Next, X is the oxide of a metal, yes, and Y is the oxide of a non-metal. Just what we decided right now. So let me repeat. The aqueous solution of Y aqueous reacted with carbonate to produce carbon dioxide. So this means that this solution is acidic. And what is this? We know that this is the acidic solution of Y. So if Y forms, and what was Y? Basically, Y was an oxide. So if YO formed a solution which is acidic, this means that YO is an acidic oxide. And acidic oxides are always non-metal oxides. Basically, the entire Y was the oxide, but I used YO deliberately to make it more understandable. So option C is correct. If you have any confusion, you should revisit the chapter acid, bases, and salts, and especially the basis topic. Next, copper to sulfate is made by reacting excess insoluble solid M and solution N. Okay, so so which row identifies M and N and the method used to extract crystals of copper to sulfate from the mixture? So copper to sulfate is a soluble salt and insoluble solid M. Is it copper? Is it copper to oxide? Is it copper to carbonate or is it copper? So let's look at it. When it reacts with N, so sodium sulfate, this is sodium sulfate. So can copper react with sodium sulfate? No, copper cannot displace sodium over here. Copper is below in the reactivity series. And this is also written over here, crystals are filtered out from the mixture. So we have to look at this column also. Option B, copper reacts with sulfuric acid and the mixture is filtered and the filtrate evaporated until crystals form. Yeah, so basically the first one was also wrong because crystals are filtered out from the mixture. Crystals are first the mixture should be filtered. Crystals are not filtered first. The mixture should be filtered, and the residue over here will be the excess insoluble solid M. We know that this is excess, so this will remain even after the reaction is complete. So the insoluble solid M over here will remain. And over here we have copper to sulfate with water itself, dissolved in water. Then we will carry out the crystallization of this mixture, this solution basically, crystallize. First, this filtration should occur. But the problem here is that, and let's read option C, copper 2 carbonate, which is an insoluble substance. Copper 2 oxide is also insoluble, so all are insoluble. Next, what happens is copper 2 carbonate reacts with sulfuric acid. What happens then is mixture is filtered and the filtrate evaporated until crystals form. So this is identical. So option C seems to be correct. The reason being that copper also cannot substitute or displace hydrogen from the acid because it is below in the reactivity series. As for this over here, we have two different compounds, copper carbonate plus H2SO4. So there is a tendency of the reaction can occur over here because they're two different compounds. Over here, it it was just displacement. It was not the reaction itself. Meaning, to be more clear, over here, hydrogen also can react with this. And what happens is this is a reaction we have studied already. We have studied this reaction that in the previous question, acid, which is H2SO4, plus carbonate, which is copper 2 carbonate, will produce carbon dioxide, water, and copper sulfate salt. As for this right here, we have no compound over here. We have copper. So where will this hydrogen go? Yes, it will be produced as a gas, but this is not the best option. This is just recall. You have to choose a salt. So next, copper 2 oxide reacts with sulfuric acid. The mixture is filtered and the residue is dried. No, the residue is not copper 2 sulfate. The residue is copper 2 oxide. The residue is copper 2 oxide because the residue is the insoluble substance. So it is not D, definitely. It is C. So this is a pretty tricky question. You can go wrong with this one, but yeah, you have to focus. Next, which row shows the observation when a few drops of aqueous P is added to concentrated aqueous Q? When a few drops of aqueous P is added to concentrated aqueous Q. So this is sodium sulfite. Sodium sulfite. So this is the you can look at the notes for qualitative analysis in your syllabus for this question because this is the test for ions. Acidified potassium magnate when added to sodium sulfite. So over here we have sulfite, not sulfate. If this was sulfate, this we have sulfite over here. Okay, so this is not correct. It should have gone. If sulfite was present, this should have been colorless. Next, sodium hydroxide, and we have over here zinc chloride. So white precipitate is formed. This is true. Zinc ions are cations. If you look at the list of cations, we have the test for sodium hydroxide, and in the presence of zinc, we have a white precipitate which is soluble in excess. So we have only a few drops over here, so this is correct. It won't be soluble in a few drops. The white precipitate will be seen, and when it is in excess, it will react further to form a soluble solution. So this is correct. As for C, ammonia and potassium carbonate fizzing. No, ammonia does not react with potassium carbonate like this. It If this was potassium hydroxide, then this could be correct. Over here, barium chloride reacts with iron 3 sulfate brown precipitate. No, in this reaction, barium will react with sulfate, so this will form barium sulfate, which is a white precipitate, not a brown precipitate. As for C, we don't have any evidence to suggest this. If this was carbonate, so the carbonate test is just to add dilute acids. So this should be an acid. Acid should have been added, and this would have given fizzing, which will be CO2. Over here, CO2 won't be produced because ammonia does not react with carbonate salts in this way. Next, which statement about the periodic table is correct? Elements in the same group have the same number of electron shells. No. Elements in the same period have the same electron shells. Elements in the same group have the same number of outer shell electrons. Electrons in the outer shell are same. Elements are arranged in order of increasing proton number. So yes, this is correct. Proton number increases if you look at the periodic table. We have 39.1, 40.1, 45.0. See, the groups are arranged in this way. It constantly increases. Next, metals are on the right. No, metals are on the left in group 1, 2, 3, and non-metals are on the right, group 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The most reactive elements are at the bottom of every group. Not true for all groups. It is true for group 1, 2, but not true for group 7, halogens, because the reactivity in group 7 decreases down the group. So incorrect, and the correct option is B. 21. Elements J and K are in the same period in the periodic table, so they have the same number of shells because they're in the same period. What happens is J reacts with acids to produce a salt and hydrogen. So J is what? A metal, because what reacts with an acid to produce a salt and hydrogen? A metal reacts. So K reacts with sodium to form an ionic compound. So K should be a non-metal. Why? Because it is reacting with a metal. Two metals don't react. A non-metal only reacts with a metal. And an ionic compound is formed, which means that ionic compound are the compounds which have a metal plus non-metal. So now we have our theory in order. Let's look at the options. Which statement about J and K is correct? An atom of J has more electrons than an atom of K. So K is a metal. Oh, sorry, K is a non-metal and J is a metal. So the proton number or the number of electrons increase along the period. They do not decrease. So J is over here and K is over here. So along this, the increase takes place of number of electrons, which is proton number. Proton number, we just selected this, increasing proton number. Increasing proton number means proton number is equal to the number of electrons in a neutral atom. So the atom of K contains more electrons than J. Next, J and K are both metals. We already decided K is a non-metal. We already decided J is a metal. So C is incorrect. J is to the left of K in the periodic table, evident from this option D. Part of the periodic table is shown which element has a higher density, so it should be a metal and a high melting point, again a metal, and forms a brown oxide. So compound. Colored compounds are formed by transition elements. And where are they located? Over here. So B is the correct answer. Gas G has 10 electrons. Gas H has 8 more electrons than gas G. Okay, so both gases are monoatomic. So gas being monoatomic, it should be from group 8. Which statement about G and H is correct? Both gases are in the same group of the periodic table. Correct. G group 8, monoatomic. Both gases are in the same period? No. They're not in the same period because if they're in the same group, how can they be in the same period? If they're in the same group, this is the group. If they're in the same group, which means that one is above, the other is way down below because the number of 8 more electrons. So gas G has 10 electrons. So 10 electrons are, neon has 10 electrons. So 8 more electrons means argon because it should have 18 electrons. So the different periods. Monatomic means group 8. Both gases are very reactive. They are unreactive. Gas G has a higher atomic mass than gas H. No, atomic mass increases down the group. So argon has 39.9 and neon has 20.2. They're unreactive because they have a full outer shell. Which property is correct for all metals? They're good conductors of electricity. Yes, potentially correct answer. They're hard. No, group 1 elements are very soft. They can be cut with a knife. They have high melting points. What about mercury? Mercury does not have a high melting point because it is a liquid at room temperature. They react with dilute acids? No, the less reactive metals like copper, silver are not that reactive, so they don't react with dilute acids. Next, silver is below in the reactivity. Which row describes the reaction of silver? So below copper means that it cannot react with water, with steam. So this is correct and this is wrong. And thus it cannot react with dilute HCl also because after copper, this is just for your recall, you just memorize the reactivity series and the reactions and how they separated the metals, and what are their reactions. So option A is correct. It does not react with dilute acids. Even copper does not react. So how can a metal which is below copper react? Next, which types of reaction do hematite and limestone undergo in the blast furnace? So hematite goes through reduction, and limestone is calcium carbonate, which forms calcium oxide plus CO2 gas. So thermal decomposition, hematite reduction, Fe2O3. Hematite is basically Fe2O3, which reacts with carbon to form Fe plus carbon dioxide. So the oxygen is removed. This is not balanced, but just to show you the reaction, so option B is correct. Some properties and uses of different metals are shown, which row shows a link of the use of the metal to its stated property. So this is a frequent way of asking that they check if you know the link of the use to the metal. So aluminum has a low density, yes, and it is used as an aircraft. So true. Option one is correct. Next, copper is a good conductor of electricity, so it is used in electrical wiring. Oh, again, correct. Copper is a poor conductor of heat. This is false. Metals are good conductors of heat. Four, stainless steel does not corrode easily. That's why it is used in cutlery. So incorrect. It does not corrode easily. So one and two are correct, which is option A. Next, the diagram shows a stage in the purification of dirty water. Which process does this apparatus shown? Chlorination. We do not have any chlorine. Condensation. We do not have any gas. Distillation. We do not have different liquids. And no evaporation, no boiling, nothing like distillation, only filtration. Because the substances which are larger than these holes, like the gravel, will be stuck over here and the water will pass down below. Which substance is in polluted air damages stonework and kills trees? Carbon dioxide causes global warming. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas. Lead compounds cause irritation and diseases. Sulfur dioxide causes acid rain, and acid rain damages stonework and kills trees. Ammonium nitrate is a fertilizer and is added to fields to help crops grow. Slaked lime is an alkali and is added to the fields to reduce the acidity of the soil. Ammonium nitrate and slaked lime should not be added to a field at the same time because they react with each other to form a gas. G, what is G? So alkali reacting with ammonium salt. This is ammonium salt, right? So it produces NH3, which is ammonia plus water plus salt. So ammonia is the correct answer. Next, four reactions are shown. Which reactions produce water? So we have to be very careful with this one. Calcium carbonate plus dilute HCl. We just discussed the carbonate salt, or maybe we should write it again. Reacts with HCl to produce calcium chloride plus carbon dioxide plus water. So water is produced. Copper to carbonate, when it is heated, it produces copper oxide plus carbon dioxide. So no water. Incorrect. Three, ethanol. When ethanol is heated or it reacts with oxygen, so C2H5OH, when it reacts with oxygen, it produces carbon dioxide and water. So water is produced. Next, HCl reacting with magnesium. So magnesium plus HCl produces magnesium chloride plus hydrogen gas. So no water, only option 3 and 1. So 1 and 3, which is B. B is the correct answer. Which element has an oxide that is used as a food preservative? This should be on your fingertips. Sulfur. Recall. Helium does not form an oxide. Hydrogen's oxide is water. Iron 2 oxide is the hematite, which is not used as a food preservative. Which substance gives off carbon dioxide on heating? Lime is calcium oxide. No, it does not decompose. Limestone is calcium carbonate. This is so much repeating in the questions themselves. The carbonate, whenever they're heated, they form calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. So this is correct. Lime water is the test for carbon dioxide, and slaked lime is basically in the previous question we saw it is calcium hydroxide, so no carbon dioxide. Next, which statement about both ethane and ethanol is correct? They are hydrocarbons. No, ethanol hydrocarbons means the elements or the compounds having only hydrogen and oxygen. So ethanol is C2H5OH. So it contains oxygen as well. So it is not a hydrocarbon. They contain oxygen. No, ethane is a hydrocarbon. So it does not contain oxygen. It only contains hydrogen and oxygen. They contain the same number of atoms. We have to check this. C2H8 is ethane. Or no, C2H6 because CnH2n plus 2 is the general formula, and C2H5OH is ethanol. So 8 atoms, and over here we have 9 atoms. So incorrect. They produce water when burned. So this is correct. All organic compounds, when they're burned in oxygen, in excess oxygen, they produce water and carbon dioxide. Fuel oil and naphtha are two fractions obtained from petroleum. So you should be remembering all the uses of the different fractions of the crude oil. What are the major uses of these fractions? Jet fuel for fuel oil. Fuel oil, is it used for jet fuel? No. Jet fuel is kerosene fuel, not fuel oil. It is used as a ship fuel, and naphtha is for the feedstock for the chemical industry. It is used in the chemical industry. Okay, so option C is correct. Which homologous series of compounds react to form an addition polymer? This is alkenes. They have a carbon-carbon double bond. Addition polymer means this double bond is broken and they join together. Next, what is the total number of shared electrons in ethane? So we just draw the structure. C2H6. So total number of shared electrons means 2 over here, 2 over here, 2 over here, sorry, and basically 2, 2, 2, 2. So this makes it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So option D is correct. Which process produces ethanol from glucose? Fermentation. Yes. Yeast carries out anaerobic respiration to form uh, ethanol from glucose. So 38 is C. This is you should be knowing this because you should be knowing how ethanol is produced. Which statement about unsaturated hydrocarbons is correct? CH3, CH2 is an unsaturated hydrocarbon. This is true because unsaturated hydrocarbons are the hydrocarbons which contains a double bond. Ethene has more hydrogen atoms per molecule than ethane. No, ethane does not have a double bond, so it will obviously have more carbon, more hydrogens. And if you look at the formula C2H4 for ethene, and ethane. Unsaturated hydrocarbons have double bonds between carbon and hydrogen atoms. No, the double bond is between carbon-carbon. Unsaturated hydrocarbons turn aqueous bromine from colorless to brown. No, they turn it from brown to colorless. So option A is correct. An organic compound X contains two carbon atoms in each molecule. X reacts with aqueous sodium carbonate to give carbon dioxide. What is compound X? So obviously it should be an acid because reacting with carbonate to produce carbon dioxide is the reaction we studied and discussed in this paper itself multiple times. So it should be an acid. Ethanol is an alcohol. Ethane is alkane. Is an alkane. This is ethene, and this is ethanoic acid. It contains two carbon atoms and the carboxylic acid functional group. So this was the last question. We have completed the paper. Jazakallah khairah.